work session. Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. Will you please stand on the silence? And please join the board. Pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't see any public comment requests, but if there's anybody who wish to tell the board what fantastic things are going on, we'll appreciate your comments. Approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept the approval of the minutes as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposers? None. The motion is carried. Still moving along. Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept the agenda as presented. All is in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Nays? None. Motion is carried. Now we have one action item, personnel list. Dr. Middleton, Mr. Jenkins. Do you need to? The administration recommends approval of the personnel list as presented. All those in favor, let it be known.
Dr. Lance, if I may, sir, may I ask a question?
Sure we can, huh?
Okay. On C1, we had 2 employees at one time with the same exact name, and I was wondering which one this one was.
Good evening, Chairman Lance, members of the board, Mr. Price, district staff, and guests. To answer the question, C1 is Mr. Kenneth Cribb. He used to hold the position, I think, when you were at Georgetown High School as well. Is this not the same person that you're referring to? But he was a former employee with us.
Was he the head football coach at Georgetown?
I would have to really do a quick little email with Mr. Stone just to double check with that, and I can get right back to you.
Okay, I mean, I don't have an issue. I was just curious because I know we had 2 Ken Cribbs, and both of them, I think, were the head coach at one time. And I was just out of curiosity which one it was.
Yes, sir, I'll get that
Okay.
for you in just a few minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Two Ken Cribb as head football coach.
Other questions? Dr. Cavera, I kind of remember.
Sir?
I kind of remember the
Yes, sir.
situation.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Do we need to hold on that?
No, sir? No?
I got it for you real quick if you want.
Mr. Chair?
It's on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Jenkins said he has that information. If it,
Question.
Pass.
Yes, sir. I was told he was the first Kenneth Cribb with the school district, and he was at Georgetown High School as the head football coach, but the year that you came was his last year there.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Other questions?
Hey, Dr. Lance, I just want to reiterate, I don't have any issue. It was just out of curiosity,
I'm
no
aware.
issue at all. Okay, thank you.
I'm aware, so I'll tell you about it after. All right. Trying this one more time. The administration recommends the approval of the personnel list as presented. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Opposes? None? Motion is carried. Now we go to Ms. Gray. Information item 1.
Good evening, Chairman Lance, Superintendent Price, members of the board, district staff, and guests. My name is Tyler Easterling, and I am the chair of the Coastal Montessori Charter School Board. I'm very excited to be here. While I wasn't a member of the board or even really super involved when the school was started in 2012, I'm excited that I get to be here to share kind of what the first 10 years look like for the school. The school opened in August of 2012 with 143 students and 14 staff members. Today, we have more than 200 students and 35 staff members. The school has been such a wonderful public choice option for Georgetown County. And I want to hope over the next couple of slides, you'll see a bunch of pictures, and we're going to hit on some of the highlights of the first 10 years. But on this first slide, the picture you see here is a member of our sixth graders. They are in New York City attending the United Nations building where they get to participate in the Montessori Model United Nations. In 2016, we added 2 additional grades to the school. So when we opened the school, it started with grades 1 through 6. We added 7th and 8th in 2016. And in 2016, we got to move into our permanent location into the new building, which you see there. We were very fortunate and lucky to have started at Georgetown Middle School, Waccamaw Middle School, but we're really happy, obviously, to have our own facility now today. In here, you'll see we do a lot of community outreach at the school. This picture is really a neat one. This is actually at the Arbor Landing Assisted Living, but this is where our middle school students are participating in community outreach, and you can see them there participating with some of those residents. The CMCS students have been given so many opportunities over the last 10 years, not only by the school, but by the district as well. And I wanted to show you some of the things that they get to do that are unique being Montessori students. So you can see here, they get the opportunity to garden on campus, cook. They have Spanish for all of our grades 1 through 8. They get to learn sewing and drama. They get to do things like formal dining day, where they get to learn table manners and how to set their placemats. They get to do student-run activities. One of the favorites has been the talent show. They participate in yoga, camping, and you can see here public speaking. They also participate annually in the Seeds to Shoreline program, which is a fantastic program, which is giving back to our community. And we also are really excited. We have our own beekeeper on campus, and so we actually have bees in our media center. So if you haven't got a chance to come and see the bees, I don't think they're harvesting right now, but it's pretty cool to get to see the bees moving, and the kids get to learn about bees and what they do for the food chain. Here you can see we obviously love the opportunity that we get to partner with the school district, and our students participate in everything that all of the Georgetown County School District students get to participate in. We're super excited. We've been the Academic Bowl champs twice, and we're defending our title in the next couple of weeks, so excited about that. But you can see here it's a highlight for our students to get to participate in these events. Here you can see are some of just fun pictures of the kids getting to participate in things like the first tee, and the middle schoolers do internships in the spring, and you can see one of our students here who's actually interning at a vet's office. These are some other field trips, and we even were able to welcome a local celebrity and have Ed Piotrowski come to the school and teach the students about weather. So there's a lot of great things, and I could stand here for probably 3 hours and tell you about all the things that have happened over the last 10 years at Coastal Montessori Charter School, but I'll spare you the details of all that. I'm going to hand this over to Rosemary Gray. She's going to talk on, we have 4 charter goals that are spelled out in our charter, and she's responsible as the director to make sure that we are hitting those goals, and a lot of those do, basically focus on test scores and the performance of our students academically. I got to talk about the fun stuff. She's going to talk about how the students are performing academically.
Thank you, Tyler. All right, we have, at the inception of our school, there were 4 goals that were established, and so we continually work on those goals, and so we'll go over quickly what those goals are and where we are with that. The first goal, to narrow the achievement gap across all subject areas between lower and higher socioeconomic status students. We are actively trying to attract students from all parts of the county, and we've done a pretty good job of that, as you'll see in the next couple slides. Originally, and I would say for the first 8 years of the school, most of the students were from Pawleys Island area. That has changed. This data that you're looking at now shows a major increase in just the last year of enrollment from the Georgetown and Andrews areas. Since the start of the 2021 school year, we've increased our enrollment from Georgetown by 42% and from Andrews by 82%. So we're on the move there with that, and we've been focusing, and you'll see a slide on our marketing area here. We've been focusing on those outlying areas to add to our school, and I think we're doing a good job of that, and we're going to continue with that. We have, as far as our marketing goes, posted billboards. You've seen probably one out on Highway 521 of our students in our school. On this side of the county, we have targeted postcards delivered to neighborhoods surrounding all the elementary schools in the county within a 5-mile radius. And as well as lower socioeconomic neighborhoods located throughout the county. So I think through these efforts, a lot of folks have discovered us and have, realized that this is a free public education open to all students in the county, and we believe that, we're going to get more of our students from around the county as well. So going to continue to work on that. Goal number 2, students at CMCS will demonstrate yearly academic progress expected for their grade level based on national norms. And historically, CMCS has tested with our state test above the district average in both reading and math. And here are some statistics on that. This is the 2021 SC Ready scores, ELA. Students who met or exceeded expectations, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th. We don't have 6 here because we did not have last year enough 6th graders. There's a certain minimum of students who have to be tested in order for that to be reported. So we've got 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th, and you can see the differences there. And that's an ELA. Math, these are students' scores in the approaches or meets or exceeds expectations areas. And you can take a look at those too. Now, you'll see the 5th grade, 42% as opposed to 57% across the district. The reason for this, the explanation for this is down below. The Montessori curriculum is very, very specific about the order in which the math concepts are delivered to students, and it's a different order from the way the math concepts are delivered to students in the traditional settings. So students tested in the 5th grade are historically lower than the Georgetown County average, but they pick it back up come 7th and 8th grade, as you can see here, because between there, those standards are taught, the students do master them, and then it's evident right there. Goal number 3, students at CMCS will read on grade level by the end of the 3rd grade, and according to that 2021 data, almost 62% of our students are reading at or above grade level. And then goal number 4, CMC, I'm going to read this to you guys because just to read it is not, I don't know, it just makes it sinks in a little more if it's read to you, so I'm just going to read it to you if you don't mind. CMCS will cultivate in students the skills and abilities identified by education experts and valued by Dr. Maria Montessori as vital to success in the post-secondary school, the world of work, and life in general. CMCS will focus on these 7 survival skills. Critical thinking, this is something we do every day. We teach these things, we focus on these things. Critical thinking, problem solving, self-regulation, initiative, communication, inquisitiveness, and the ability to work as part of a team, especially with individuals with differing views. So we focus on this daily. What's different about CMCS? How do we stand out? What is it about us that is different? Our scholars learn actively as opposed to passively. The classrooms are different. They're set up to be student-centered. Everything is centered around the students with specifically designed hands-on learning materials. And until you've been in a Montessori school, you can't understand what those materials are. So come visit and we'll show you some of those things. It's really interesting and really neat. Through guiding and consulting with students, often on a one-on-one basis, our teachers assist students along their own learning paths so they may discover information for themselves at their own pace. And that's the difference between Montessori and traditional schooling. Our students possess self-esteem. Now I've been there a year now, a little bit more than a year, and that is one of the first things that I noticed about our students is that they have self-esteem. And I believe that that is because it is cultivated within them by their teachers because of the nature of the Montessori method. It comes from an internal sense of pride in their own accomplishments. Because of the Montessori educational teaching and learning method, our students are encouraged to be inquisitive about the world around them, and the curricula appeals to their innate curiosity for knowledge. Because we follow the child at CMCS, students will often thrive in our classrooms where they may not have in a traditional school setting. So for some students, the Montessori method is what makes them successful. CMCS is an asset to GCSD, to Georgetown County School District. Because of this, the Montessori method is available to all students within Georgetown County, and I do believe in the last couple of years people are beginning to realize that everyone can attend, anyone can attend this. All right, we have been financially sustainable. We've sustained our finances since the inception of the school, as you can see right here with this chart. Okay? And these are the last 5 years, our financial trends. You can see that the net income dipped a little bit in 2019, and that is because we lost students, yet our fund balance increased. So we're being financially responsible. We are not frugal. We give our students and our teachers what they need, but we're very careful with our spending. Despite the reduction in student numbers that is happening district-wide, CMCS projects a $17,696 positive income after all expenses have been paid. The community continues to support fundraising initiatives, including our most recent color run, resulting in a net gain of $15,000. So we do a lot of fundraising to help that out. For the next 10 years, we will continue to grow and expand upon our current goals that I just read to you and stay driven by the mission established in our charter. And here's our mission. If you don't mind, I'll read that as well. The mission of Coastal Montessori Charter School is to produce highly educated, self-directed, socially responsible citizens who work collaboratively, respectfully, and peacefully as individual yet interdependent learners in a diverse and nurturing community. Through the unique combination of empirically validated Montessori principles, localized charter governance, and open access, Coastal Montessori Charter School further aims to provide Georgetown County School District with an academically excellent, financially accountable public school choice. How do we continue to grow and serve Georgetown County? Now, we have, and I'm very proud of this, I'm so proud of this, and proud of our teachers who are participating in this, and our teacher assistants, and of course, our standout teacher, Dr. Trish Gaskill, who is heading this endeavor up. We have a Montessori Accreditation Council for Teacher Education Institute in our school. And in the past, of course, you want all of your teachers to be MACT certified, which is what that stands for, Montessori certified. So we have been traditionally sending teachers and assistants to other areas of the state to get this training at $8,000 an individual. Now, we are not spending $8,000 an individual. We have a teacher who is accredited by this organization, and she actually is teaching the courses, and it's 2 years worth of courses, to 12 of our employees, and they started about a year ago. They have about a year to go. They're still going strong, and I'm just so proud of them. So once our first round of 12 graduates has completed its training in the spring of 2023, we're going to have this training opened up to educators outside of our school. They'll come in and they will pay the $8,000, and that'll benefit our school. So we're very proud of this, that we're able to do this, and it's just going strong, and the teachers are loving it, and they're learning all kinds of things, and it's just helping the students in the end. How do we continue to grow and serve Georgetown County? Well, strong administration leadership, oversight from our governing board, who ensures CMCS is accomplishing goals, and this governing board has a good, strong relationship with our administration. We work well together toward the same goals. We have an active PTO who provides additional resources for students, including building an outside classroom. That's in the works. They're in the initial stages of that, and they fundraise a lot for that, and so we're very proud of them as well. Increased marketing strategies, we can't stop with that. We've just gotten started, so we'll continue with our marketing. And then, thankfully, we have an active and positive partnership with Georgetown County School District, and we appreciate that very much. We appreciate all you guys do as a school board, for not just for Coastal Montessori Charter School, because we know that you guys have us in mind when anything comes up that we need. We feel pretty comfortable, very comfortable actually, coming to you with anything that we have to ask for, and I believe our working relationship is excellent. So we thank you for that, and we also thank you for everything you do for all of the students in Georgetown County, because our students are part of Georgetown County, and you guys are working hard for all of them, and thank you for that. And thank you for letting us be here tonight, too. Appreciate it. Any questions?
Actually, I have a question.
Okay.
First of all, I appreciate the presentation, and I'm a big fan. I go way back, but I appreciate the presentation. I know a lot of hard work went into it, and I also know a lot of hard work goes into the governance of the school and everything that you do. So kudos to you and your staff.
Thank you.
My question is, what is the racial makeup of your staff and students?
The racial makeup of the staff to students?
No, of staff, and also what's the racial makeup of the students?
Racial makeup of staff is not where we want it to be. We're working on that. I believe when I arrived last year, there was one African-American staff member, and now there are several. So we're working toward that on that.
Okay.
And I know that that's an issue because we want our school to look like the rest of the district.
Right.
And I believe that as far as the students are concerned, I know that we are making huge strides in that arena, as was evidenced by the information that I just provided. So very proud of that piece. So we're going to continue to work on both of those. And I think that our marketing, as far as the students go anyway, is making a big difference, and will continue to.
One of the other things, which is, you didn't ask this question, but it's about the board. We made a bylaws change last year in the board to make sure that the board has equal representation throughout the entire county. So that's really important so that we make sure that the board doesn't look like all Pawleys Island either. We want to have members of the board from all areas of the county, because if there's members of the board, they're talking about the school, they're promoting the school, they're getting people excited about the school. So that was very intentional when we made that bylaws revision last year. And also, we've added 2 appointed seats onto the board so that we can make sure that we can appoint people. If we don't have what we need, we can make sure that we ensure that we can get the right people that look the right way or not are in the right geographic area for the county as well.
And what are the board terms? Is it 2 years?
2 years, yep.
Thank you.
Couple of questions. I applaud the work that you're doing. It's phenomenal. But what I want to know is, one is, what is your capacity of number of students at Coastal Montessori? And this, which also is a question too, is what's the process if a student wants to come to school there?
Okay, the capacity is 270, as is written in the charter. And if a student wants to enroll, his parent or her parent calls the school, talks to Christy, who is our intake person, and she gives them information about the application process. They fill out an application. Right now, we are not at capacity, so we are accepting freely folks who want to come. When we get to 270, a wait list starts for each grade level, and we try to keep the grade levels, the numbers kind of even, because we have grades 1, 2, and 3 in one setting, and then we have grades 4, 5, and 6 in one setting. And so once we reach that capacity, we'll have a waiting list for each grade level. So if we lost a second grader, then we would allow a second grader in if we're at the capacity, the next second grader, and so on.
And then we do go to a lottery process. So if we have a wait list, we will go to a lottery so that we'll then draw people physically out of a bag, to make sure that it's equal, so that if we have a long waiting list for there's no preferential treatment. They're just drawn out of a hat and then called to say that they've gotten an open
You are
position.
going to 8th grade, correct?
We are.
And how are the kids, are y'all following the kids as they enter back into the high schools and how they're doing, and the success stories? Are y'all able to keep up with that?
We are. We've had one salutatorian that was
Right.
we don't have a ton because obviously we've only had 7th and 8th grade for so many years. But obviously we can only go on what some of the parents tell us. But we hear that the students do transition well back into the traditional school. One of the things that Montessori teaches is a lot of independent learning and time management, and the time management piece really translates well when they get into high school as far as having to manage their schedules, manage, if they're doing after-school activities or studying and those type of things. And so that's where we hear the most comments from the parents, is that time management piece and being able to make that change over pretty easily.
And I look at the 7th and 8th grade, the middle school piece, they're in a wing by themselves, and they're different. Those are transitional years because we know they're going to high school. They're still Montessorians, yet they take English at a certain time of day, math, social studies, and science. So in that respect, and in the fact that they sit in desks all day, like normal high schoolers would, or middle schoolers, not normal, traditional, they are acclimated, I guess, or they're acclimated to the way things are going to be when they get to high school. And so I think they do fine once they get there because they are used to that. They don't go straight from Montessori, sitting on rugs and working, just whatever you want to work on, whatever your teacher asks you to work on, and you have choices. That's not so much in the middle school.
Thank you.
I had a question. If you had any kids that transitioned from the regular school to your school, have you seen a major impact in their improvement with their grades and whatnot since they transferred over to you?
It just depends on this. We don't have grades the way traditional schools have grades. We keep up with students, and there's a lot of contact between parents and students, and they get progress reports. If that makes sense, but we do have standardized testing and all of that. Our kids are, they become acclimated because of the fact that their teachers know how to transition them from the traditional school into what we do.
If you
So,
see
yeah, and they do fine. They do just
The
fine.
difference in how they conduct themselves and
A lot of times, yeah.
orderly, organized in what they do in their work.
Yeah, because the teachers work on that a lot, and manners and respect and the way we conduct ourselves is a big part of what we do. And, you know, we've seen a lot of success in our school with kids who did not have success in the traditional setting.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. You got a question?
I've got a couple of questions. Transportation. I know one of the goals was that the Montessori school, the population of children would reflect or as close as possible as the county. Transportation has always been an issue since the inception of the school. Where are you with transportation?
We have 7 buses that drop our students off every morning and pick them up in the afternoon. And we probably have 45 bus riders maybe. So it's as smooth as it can be. I mean, you know, over here, they have to meet here, which is, you know, a little bit of a hardship on parents, but it's worth it to them. And so transportation is not a real big issue. I think our transportation department does a good job with getting our kids to and from school.
One thing I'll add is that we also offer after-school care, and we do that as well so that that is not a hardship on the parents. So if the child needs to stay after school, they can stay, and that helps as well with parents being able to pick them up later in the day, not having to come pick them up at 2 o'clock dismissal time. So.
Ms. Ford asked a question, and if you don't mind, I'd like to ask it again. The demographics of the school, I know you, Ms. Gray, you answered about the staff.
Right.
But as far as the students are concerned, what are you, and also in addition to that, your special ed population, how many roughly percentage-wise would you say?
Well, special ed, I think we have about 26 or 7.
I'm sorry, 26 or 7 students?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The demographics, I don't, and I wish I had brought that, but I don't have the exact numbers here. I would say we're not where we need to be. We don't look exactly like Georgetown County. That's what we're working on with our marketing. I've seen a remarkable increase in our African-American population coming over. And it's, you know, I can get those numbers for you, but again, we're not where we need to be, but we've been working on it for about a year.
Okay, and then in closing, one more question. When I looked at your test data, you know, obviously that's a small sample size compared to the county. You know, you're comparing the county.
Correct.
All right, so the sample size is really small. And, you know, having said that, you know, that impacts the results that you get. So I just want to bring that.
Got
you know,
it, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you all
Thank y'all
so
very
much. We
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doing a great job. Their scores look marvelous. Small size on population. Next on the agenda, Dr. Barno, formative assessment, on the results. All right, ready. Vendors results, after-school program results.
Good evening, Chairman, Superintendent, board members, and others in the audience. I am here this evening to present to you our district fall and winter data analysis. We'll be going through iReady, Dibbles, our after-school programs, reading and math growth, and our first semester EOC scores. Just a reminder about our academic recovery plan, that we are required to have goals and strategies for not only providing our annual growth in ELA for all students, but also the catch-up growth for those most impacted by the pandemic. This slide shows you our academic recovery plan goals, and we would like you to know that we have updated these goals with the beginning of the year 2021 data. When we originally submitted the academic recovery plan, it was with the end of year spring 21 data. iReady, this is a slide just to let you know what the different levels are. The colors are specific to the level that the student is at when tested. Your reds are your grade level below 2 or more. Yellow means you're 1 grade level. The light green is early on or at grade level, and dark green means you are mid-year. So if you tested in the fall and your score was at the dark green, that meant you were already at mid-year point or above. For math, we tested, you can see how many we tested in fall and winter, and for students who will be in the graph, we actually had 3,800 students with fall and winter data.
Question?
Yes.
Back to the slide, what was the difference with fall and winter data? What compared
It
to?
could have been quarantine, it could have been some students moved out between fall and winter,
Okay.
or moved in. But according to iReady, we had 3,800 that they could match a fall growth and a winter growth. Okay. This shows you a breakdown for each level and where we fell between fall and winter. You can see the percentage of students at each level for fall and then winter, and the last column lets you know the change from fall to winter. So in our lowest areas, the 2 grades below or the 3 or more grades below, we decrease those numbers, which is what you want to see. In the yellow, we increased, and that can go either way, because if you're positive in the yellow, that means you've moved students, hopefully, from that red to the yellow, okay? If it were negative, then that means we actually moved students all the way from the red to the green. For your green, with the two together, we've had an increase of 13% of students from fall to winter. So we have increased those who are at or above grade level. The next slide shows you the same information, but it breaks it down between below grade level and above, and on or above. So in the fall, we had 88% of our students below grade level. In the winter, we decreased that number to 73%. In the fall, we had 13% who were on or above grade level. In the winter, we increased that percent to 26%. Letting you see our theme for our district instructional is growing the green. This lets you see a breakdown by schools. Your first column will be your fall score percentage, and your second column is your winter. This is middle school. Same information. iReady, this is the same information from the math. This is the reading. If you notice, we have matched data for 3,949 students for reading. This is broken down for each level. As you can see, we decreased in the grade levels below. There are 2 grade levels below or 3 or more grade levels below. For both of those levels, from fall to winter, we moved students up to the grade below. We also increased our at or above. Those students are in the green. And again, this is broken down for each level, so you can see the movement from one level to another. This breaks it down just between below grade level and on or above grade level. So in the fall, we had 79 students who were below grade level. In the winter, we decreased that number to 69%. So we decreased our below grade level percentage by 11%. In the fall, we had 21% at or above grade level. We increased that number in the winter to 32%. So we had a positive 11%. This is the same information but broken down by schools. This is your elementary and our intermediate school. These are our 4 middle schools. We also included third grade because, as you know, Read to Succeed, third grade reading level. We look at those students who are in not met 1 category because those are the students who would have to be required to attend summer reading camp and possibly be retained for third grade. This is all 5 of our levels. Also note at the bottom, according to our Office of Assessments and Standards, in February, this month, we received the notice that an iReady reading cut score of 419 or lower is considered performing at the third grade SC Ready reading not met 1. That's the 10th percentile for fall, and I think it drops. Winter, it's the 6th and 7th, and by spring, any student scoring at a 419 or below is at the 5th to 6th percentile or lower. Again, these are third grade reading, and this breaks it down between on grade level and above or below grade level. So in the fall, you can see we had 80% below and 20% at or above. In the winter, we decreased below grade level to 71%, and we increased our winter 29%. And these are the third grade scores broken down by grade, by schools. Next is Dibbles. This is the dynamic indicator of basic early literacy skills. And this will show you K through second grade, fall to winter. This shows you from fall to winter, those students are performing at or above, and it compares the beginning of a year data to the mid-year data. And this is a composite score. It took all of the different areas within that Dibbles assessment to come up with this overall composite score. The next few slides are our after-school program. This is just a reminder for our total enrollment. We currently have 383 students enrolled in after-school, and we have it broken down for you by schools. These slides show you our fall to winter growth. This slide is for reading. We had 98.2% of our enrollment with matched data. So 376 out of 383. We were able to have 2 scores to show you the growth. This is overall by grade level. And I know that's very hard to see. Thankfully, you have it on your screen and in your handout. This is actually broken down by each school that had an after-school program and the grades that they enrolled in those programs. The chart below it shows you the actual percentages. This is for math after-school growth. Again, this is for growth from fall to winter. And this is the percentage of students who showed an increase. And again, this is broken down by the school and by the grade level at each school and gives you the percentage for each grade level at each school and of students who had growth, positive growth. And if you notice, we had several schools and grades that had 100%. That means all students at that grade level showed positive growth. End of course. This is going to show you what we just finished for our EOC. For those students who are enrolled in an EOC for fall semester. This is a 2-year data trend for our district pass rate. You can see the 4 areas, 4 content areas, and it shows you fall 20 to fall 21. The next few slides will show you by school for each content. This is Algebra 1 from fall 20 to fall 21. Andrews High School is not on this slide. They did not have any students enrolled in Algebra 1 for the fall semester. There's Biology 1. English 2, and U.S. History. That's the last slide. Questions?
Dr. Barano, do those end-of-course tests, they mirror the state end-of-course tests? I mean, as far as the question?
As far as the percentages?
Yes.
We are still analyzing that, and the reason being is because we've had 2 extended windows from the state, across the state, our district included, because of our quarantines.
Okay.
So they haven't had time to compute the average across the state.
Okay. And the next thing, Mr. Price, I know this may sound ridiculous, but there used to be a television show on called Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And I don't know about anybody in the audience, but when I took the test, half the time I didn't pass. I mean, there are a lot of people who didn't pass if they're honest with you. The reason why I'm asking that is because I would like to see, we get this data and do a great job with it. I mean, I commend you for this, very good. But at some point in time, can we see some sampling questions? Because I'm telling you, it has opened up some eyes for me. I mean, I've been substituting in grades like kindergarten to 5th grade, and the substitute leaves some assignments. And I tell the kids, yeah, we'll work on something else today. You talk to your teacher tomorrow. And then we go back to, 1 and 1 and 10 and 6 and all this stuff. And so anyway, I think it would be helpful, not just for we as a board, but I think the general public to see just how challenging some of these questions are on these end-of-course tests. Would you agree that they're challenging, Dr. Barano?
Yes.
Okay.
And there are, we can pull some sample questions. The State Department actually provides samples and also the test blueprint, which shows you how the test is laid out as far as what content in each indicator.
Okay, thank you.
And Dr. Capero, we will bring back to you the board when we have spring assessment results as well. That will also give us an opportunity to have a true measure of where we stand comparatively to the rest of the state. They don't put out mid-year data. In the past couple of years, because of the pandemic and the different operational variances that are across the state and the country, have kind of thrown everyone a little out of sync with what they're accustomed to. Right. But whenever we bring that back, we can include some sample test items at that time, so it'll be all together as well.
Good. Thank you, sir.
I have a question for clarification. I'm not sure what page it's on, but it's about the 3rd grade reading level, the iReady Fall Winter Data Analysis. Yes. If I'm reading this correctly, This says that 80% of the students were at 2 or more grades below.
So altogether, so some of those students would be 1 grade level below.
Right, okay.
If you look at this one, it actually breaks it down for you. So of that 80%, 32 are actually 1 grade below. So those students in yellow are actually getting Tier 2 intervention, which is like small group within the classroom.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you putting this together in terms of making data interesting and easy to understand. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Andrews High School, are they on a year-long math schedule for Algebra 1, or did they just not schedule students first semester for an Algebra 1 course?
They did not schedule for first semester for Algebra 1. They will be taking that this semester.
So did those entering ninth graders not take a math course in the fall?
Dr. Hamill, I'll defer to Dr. Hamill.
Yes, ma'am. Those students at Andrews took foundations of algebra in first semester and will be taking intermediate algebra in the spring to combine for their Algebra 1 credit. All the students that didn't have Algebra 1 honors previously. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any data how these kids who, in the elementary grades, how they performed on iReady, who were involved in interventions, and how did they perform?
Yes, sir. The students who went in the red, the light red and the dark red, those are our Tier 3 students.
Okay.
And they are the students who are receiving that pull-out or push-in intervention. They're getting that secondary intervention, so they're getting small group in the class, classroom instruction and intervention instruction.
You know, talking with elementary principals, they seem to be real excited about how the work the interventionists are doing and
Yes.
the growth that they're making.
And are you finding that these same students are in that, taking advantage of the after-school program?
That question I would have to find out about. After school is specific to each school, and each school had their own decisions as far as who they pulled. I do believe for the most part they did use their data as far as who they pulled for after school. Mr. Cohens, would you like to add?
That's correct, what you just stated.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay, thank you.
That's your lease, weights. Let's play with the calendar a little.
Good evening, Chairman Lance, members of the board, Mr. Price, district staff, and guests. Per Mr. Price's request to develop a more traditional calendar for the 2022-23 school year, the calendar committee recommends the following calendar for your consideration. Teachers will return on August the 8th of 2022. Students will begin on August 15th of 2022. Veterans Day will be a half-day teacher prep day, which would be a half-day for students, giving students and staff the option and flexibility to participate in Veteran Day activities. The week of Thanksgiving would be off. The end of the first quarter would be October 18th. End of the second quarter would be January the 12th. The end of the third quarter would be March 22nd. End of the fourth quarter and the last day of school would be June of 2023.
Any questions, comments?
have a question for Mr. Price on this. Will we come back and look at a modified year loan at some point?
Yes, sir. You may recall whenever Ms. Waits, I'm going to borrow your mic here, Dr. Lance. The last time that Ms. Waits was here, she proposed the 23-24 modified calendar and a 22-23 bridge calendar. And in the feedback that we got, there was some concerns about going to the bridge calendar, which was a significant change from our traditional calendar. And so I made the decision at that point, based on all the feedback we received, to go back and have our calendar committee work on a more traditional start date with that third Monday in August. And we have not abandoned the modified calendar route, but based on a lot of the feedback, we've got some educating that we need to do about what it is and what it is not, and some research that we need to do. And we're going to try to come back again to make this proposal in the future, to take the time, do some presentations, have some Q&A sessions, collect that feedback, possibly do some surveys with students, parents, employees, community members to take a gauge on whether or not that modified calendar is something that we want to consider for our county, or if largely it's not for us and we move on and we keep trucking along with our more traditional calendars. So we haven't abandoned it. We haven't moved forward with it. We just need to do some more work with it at this time and then determine which route we're going to take.
All right.
And once we get to revisit it based on everything you just said, would we be voting on it prior to January? Would that change?
For next January,
Right.
that's something that we'll need to discuss as a board and an administration. And we're going to talk a little bit about that coming up with the next item.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman.
I'd just like to share with you that I think it's really a very good thing that there is not a month in this calendar, that there is not teacher preparation time. And for that, I want to say thank you, because our teachers, I think that's been a very positive. And as we looked at this calendar now, there's every month, there's at least a half day, sometimes the day of prep, but there's at least a half day for teacher prep. And I think that's very important, and I'd like to say thank you for that.
Okay, Mr. Price is continuing in that vein. Policy ICA.
Good evening, Chairman Lance, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Tonight, I bring to you policy ICA, which addresses our school year calendar for discussion and consideration. You may recall at the last board meeting, we actually had to suspend this policy because we were not ready to move forward with a 22-23 calendar at that time. And just for your reference, the current policy reads, the Georgetown County Board of Education will review a proposed 3-year calendar submitted by the superintendent not later than the January regular meeting. The calendar will include designated student contact days, designated work days for district employees, designated staff development days and teacher work days, and state and school district holiday periods. The calendar adopted will be consistent with existing statutes and State Board of Education directives. The board may appoint a school calendar committee to gather input if deemed necessary. The board will review and approve in January the proposed calendar or calendars prior to being distributed to district employees for consideration. So as the policy is written is not exactly aligned with how we've been practicing. And in my conversations with members of our calendar committee, both present and past, that although a 3-year calendar may have been approved in the past, it's been tweaked regularly and annually as we move forward. So that presents some challenges that things come up that are unforeseeable. And so we did some research and we looked at some sample policies from other areas. And one of those came from Aiken, and I'll pull that up here. Ms. Kibler, it's doing that screen share thing again. I'm going to try to slide it. So in this sample calendar, you see that the purpose is to establish the basic structure for the school calendar. The superintendent will prepare the calendar for the ensuing school year and present it for board approval by the spring of each year rather than by January. While January could be a target, it doesn't lock you in, so therefore if you miss that January target, you don't have to suspend the policy. The school calendar will be developed in accordance with the following guidelines: 180 instructional days for students, 190 days for teachers. Classes to begin no later than the 4th Monday in August. The calendar will include a minimum of 5 in-service days and 5 teacher work days, with at least 2 in-service days scheduled before school starts, and 2 teacher work days will be scheduled before school starts. Holidays, it lists out the different holidays there. And they have them all spelled out with which ones that they include. Days lost because of inclement weather will be made up as determined by the school calendar. That has changed now that we have been approved as an e-learning district. We're able to incorporate e-learning options. Teacher in-service and work days will be used as needed. And the proposed calendar will be submitted to the board no later than the spring of each year. Any changes to the calendar not provided for within this policy will require the approval of the board. The next sample came from Darlington. Where you'll see some similar language. The school year will consist of 190 days. The district will use 180 days for student instruction. It talks about how the remaining 10 days will be used for employees. The district will not begin classes for students prior to the 3rd Monday in August. This does not apply to schools operating on a year-round modified school calendar. The district may request a waiver from this requirement under certain conditions outlined in law. The superintendent, in consultation with the staff, will prepare the school calendar. The calendar will set forth starting dates, ending dates, days of attendance for students, days of in-service, and so on. The superintendent will present the proposed calendar to the board for approval in the spring of each year. And for makeup days, the district will use e-learning instructional processes instead of designated makeup days on the calendar. Based on the calendar that we have to submit to the State Department each year for ultimate approval, we still have to designate makeup days even though we can utilize e-learning days. And then finally, an example from Florence. where you'll see more similar language. The school year will consist of 190 days. The district will use 180 days for student instruction. It lists how to use the remaining 10 days for employees, for teachers. And it says the district will not begin classes for students prior to the third Monday in August. That's based off of the uniform start date. This does not apply to schools operating on a year-round modified school calendar. The district may request a waiver from this requirement under certain conditions outlined in law. It goes on to talk about makeup days, and it lays out the allowance that a school district and school board are able to implement based on the number of days that are missed. But it doesn't include the e-learning days, which we are now an e-learning district. And so after reviewing those different examples, our calendar committee has come back with a proposed policy for your consideration. And it reads as follows. The school year will consist of 190 days. The district will use 180 days for student instruction. The district will use no more than 2 of the 10 remaining days in preparation for opening the schools. The district must use 3 days for professional development based on the state academic achievement standards. The remaining 5 days may be used for teacher prep and planning, academic plans, and parent conferences. The district will not begin classes for students prior to the third Monday in August. This does not apply to schools operating on a year-round modified school calendar. The district may request a waiver from this requirement under certain conditions outlined in law. You notice that the way this is written, it doesn't say that we have to offer a modified calendar, but it allows for it. The superintendent, in consultation with the staff, will prepare the school calendar. The calendar will set forth starting dates, ending dates, days of attendance for students, days of in-service and organizational meetings for teachers, holidays and vacation periods, days of reports to parents and legal guardians, and other schedules of importance to the staff and public. The superintendent or designee will present the proposed calendar to the board for approval in the spring of each year. And for makeup days, the district will use e-learning instructional process instead of designating makeup days on the calendar. So instead of using those designated days, we would utilize e-learning days. So in looking at how our calendar committee has been working in the past, the things that they've been working on this year, and reviewing other policies from other districts, they're bringing forth a recommendation. This is for your consideration and discussion at this time. There's no vote to be taken tonight, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I have members of the calendar committee, Ms. Waits and Mr. Jenkins, and other folks who may help me if needed.
I have one on the makeup days there. The district will, are you saying they won't have an option of utilizing the e-learning days or designated makeup days?
We still have to designate on the calendar proposal that we send to the State Department for approval. We're still required to list 3 makeup days, but we can utilize e-learning days instead of those 3 days. For example, a few weeks back, we had to have an e-learning day for the ice storm, but because we did an e-learning day, our students don't have to come to school, employees don't have to work on one of those designated days.
But the state does require us to put in makeup days.
We have to designate them on our calendar. We don't have to use them
Right.
because of the e-learning, being an e-learning district, but we still have to designate them. Ms. Thompson?
I think there's just a snag in the paper. That was an earlier version, and we kind of
realize that language was a little bumpy about the e-learning days.
I'll let you talk about the difference.
No, I mean to interrupt.
No, please do.
No, you were just asking about designating the makeup days. Really, after we read through this, we realized that that was kind of written in error. So there was a more updated version that I thought you all had, and I apologize that you don't. But the more updated version says, the district shall designate annually at least 3 days within the school calendar to be used as makeup days in the event of snow, extreme weather conditions, or other disruptions requiring schools to close. So we really edited that language to modify and to mirror what's in the statute. So I apologize that the newer version didn't get circulated back around. Sorry about that. I'm sorry, Mr. Price.
Okay.
There's the newer one.
So we'll get that clarified before we bring it to you for consideration for a vote. But the days still have to be designated, but we can exercise e-learning days. Yes, sir.
Presently, with the school calendar committee, that includes teachers, community members, and so forth, right?
Ms. Waits heads up our calendar committee. Ms. Waits, do you want to talk about the number of people on the committee and who they all represent? You may need to come to the mic.
The calendar committee consisted of parents, staff, support staff, teachers, and principals. Middle school principal, teacher of the year, support staff, also representatives from instruction.
And the reason, and I appreciate that, because the more input you get, the better the product. It says here, and I only raise this issue,
Excuse me. It says the superintendent in consultation with the staff will prepare the school calendar. Okay, now,
is it understood that what you just said, Ms. Waits, that that's going to be included in this, if this did become a policy?
Yes, sir. The current practice is the calendar committee puts together the proposal, then they bring it forth to the cabinet for feedback, then it comes to the board for feedback, then it goes out to the public, to all of our employees for feedback, and all of that is collected and then brought back to the board before a vote is requested.
And I understand that process, but I'm just looking at this, and I'm taking it verbatim.
It's misleading.
Where it says the superintendent in consultation with the staff will prepare the school calendar. Okay, now, when I read that, it's kind of cut and dry that, well, the superintendent and staff will make the calendar. That's it. You don't like it? Too bad. I know that wouldn't happen in practice, but I'm just saying that.
I think what I hear you're saying is maybe we should write it to reflect more of all of this inclusive input that we have, so that it spells out what's actually being done rather than cut and dry. Is that correct?
that would be my recommendation, yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right.
I agree.
We'll certainly make a note of that. Any other questions or comments? And I appreciate that, because what we're trying to do is to write policy that reflects our practice, and that it captures the effort that we're putting into it. So we can certainly make that adjustment before we bring it back. All right, thank you very much.
Ms. Lisa Johnson. Presentation of the 220-221 Excellence Award. And I haven't even seen it.
Dr. Lance, board members, Mr. Price, we have Mr. Harris Darver, CPA, here tonight with us. He's going to present both items 5 and 6 to you. He is a partner with Darver Kelly LLP and is our auditor in charge for our independent audits. So I will be here to answer questions, but he's going to take you through some of the key points and answer any questions that you might have.
Superintendent Price, Chairman Lance, members of the board, thank you for having me tonight. I believe you have all received a copy of this report, 30 pages in front of you. I won't walk through it in detail tonight, but I would like to hit a couple key areas. I'm going to begin with the auditor's opinion on page 13 of this report. And this states that we've audited the financial statements of Georgetown County School District. Listed in the table of contents goes through the clear list of the basic financial statements as well as required supplementary information and other information. Moving down in this report, we talk about management's responsibility for financial statements, including the presentation of these financial statements and the design and implementation of internal controls surrounding the financial statement preparation. Our responsibilities are to audit them. You can read in detail some of what an audit process makes up, and I'm more than happy to answer more questions. But we do believe that the evidence that we obtained in our audit is sufficient to provide an opinion on the financial statements. We did issue an unmodified opinion. The statements that we audited and their respective financial position for each major fund and the budgetary comparison information of the district and the respective changes in financial position for the year ended June 30th, 2021, issued a clean, unmodified opinion. That is the highest level report that you can receive. The report goes on to talk about, in the emphasis of matter paragraph, that there is a modification through the adoption of GASB 84 for fiduciary activities, which includes a required change required by standards to modify the presentation of what was previously pupil activity funds are now recorded in your special activity funds. So there is a detailed note, note 20, where that inclusion modification was made, and I'm more than happy to answer more questions about that. I would like to turn to the back of the report on page 145. This, once again, is a summary of the audit and the results of the audit. It's split into two sections, the first being on the financial statements. As I mentioned previously, we issued an unmodified opinion. We identified no material weaknesses in internal control. We identified no significant deficiencies in internal control. However, we did report one material instance of non-compliance to the financial statements. I will go over that in just 1 second. When we look at the federal awards, due to the district receiving more than $750,000, you're required to receive what is called a single audit, where we select a major program or major programs and audit compliance specific to those programs. As you'll see, we audited the child nutrition cluster, which makes up the school food service program, as well as the elementary and secondary school education relief fund, or ESSER, as major programs. Pleased to report that there were no material weaknesses in internal control or significant deficiencies identified, and we issued a clean, unmodified opinion on the federal awards. As I mentioned previously, there was one instance of non-compliance. South Carolina Code of Laws requires all deposits of public funds belonging to an entity, aka the district, to be secured, including those deposits amounts above FDIC coverage, with either surety bonds, letters of credit, or pledged collaterals. At no fault to the district, but fault through one of the banking institutions that the district uses, a manual process was implemented by the bank, which caused a shortfall of collateral for June 30th. We are required by standards to report that. As of June 29th, the district was collateralized. As of July 1st, the district was collateralized. There is more information on page 146 regarding that cause and the manual process that was implemented by the financial institution. More than happy to answer questions on that. If not, I would like to go over some of the actual financial performance and numbers of the district. Yes, sir.
Sorry, did somebody else have a hand up? I was just curious, how did you discover that? Was it through random discovery or?
Excuse me. So as part of our standard audit procedures, we evaluate all deposits of the district and correlate those with those that are above FDIC insurance. And then we make that evaluation for any remaining amounts to ensure that there is pledged collateral. So we receive from the bank letters of collateral that have an actual stated collateralized amount as of June 30th. And in that letter, we were able to clearly notice the reduction. It was a manual process. It was, as you'll see, approximately $53 million uncollateralized. So a bank district generally around year end holds between $50 and $60 million. The collateral letters showed around $3 million. So it was pretty clear. And we had a significant back and forth with the financial institution to determine the true cause, what did happen. There's several letters that finance staff can provide you regarding the financial institution's role in the matter, and that it was not that of the district. Yes, sir.
But we do have that funds where it's supposed to be now, right?
Absolutely. As I mentioned before, on June 29th, they were properly collateralized at the 50-some-odd million. On July 1, they were properly collateralized. It was a manual process made by the bank where they were, in an effort to properly collateralize, there was a manual change made to add additional funding for collateral. However, the way that was input, my understanding is that was input as the collateral amount, not the additional funding for collateral, and that's what the change was. It was strictly at June 30th. And unfortunately, due to standards, I felt really bad having to report it, but based off of standards and the actual compliance, per the standards at June 30th, the district was out of compliance. As my understanding, the State Department is aware of it. This happened to, believe, 11 different institutions or 11 different governmental entities, all that bank with this financial institution, and it was a process across the board. So
You can't tell us who that is, can you?
for which financial institution?
Right.
It is written on page 146. I will not publicly state it, but if you read the finding on 146, you'll see it there.
I just want to.
Yes. If there's no other questions on that, I would like to hit on a couple of the financial numbers. I'd encourage all of you, beginning on page 16 is management's discussion and analysis. That carries for about 7 or 8 pages. That is the best summation of the financial results of the district. I'll go through a quick version myself, but if you have the time and want to not read 140 some odd pages, but read 6 or 7, beginning on page 16, that is the best area to look. I will turn your attention to page 25. This is the school district's statement of net position. As you will recall from the past, this is the district's financial position that includes both short and long-term items. This is different than the general fund that y'all are accustomed to seeing on a regular basis, but I would like to highlight this statement. As you'll see, cash and cash equivalents for the district totaled about $16 million, with restricted cash of approximately $43 million. Looking at the district's total assets of $386 million, deferred outflows of resources approximately $46.8 million, liabilities $478 million, of which a majority is related to debt and or the pension and OPEB liabilities. Deferred inflows of resources, which are related to those pension and OPEB liabilities, with a negative net position of $65 million. Now, y'all will recall that there is a negative net position that is predominantly in part due to the pension and OPEB liabilities. If you remember in 2016 and then again in 2018 with pension and OPEB respectively, those were required to be presented, and it is basically the district's proportionate share of the state retirement and health insurance liabilities. Those are presented there, as you'll see, approximately $136 million related to pension and $120 million related to OPEB. There are some other fluctuations to those numbers up and down through deferred inflows as well as deferred outflows, but those are the core liability amounts. I'll turn to page 27. This is the standard statements that y'all are used to seeing. These are the governmental fund statements. I'm going to concentrate on the general fund. As you'll recall, these remove long-term items, so there's no capital assets and no debt, no pension and OPEB reported here. You'll see cash, approximately $13 million for the general fund, or $14 million, of total assets of $30.8 million. Liabilities consist of $12 million, of which $11 million is related to year-end salary accruals. Those are predominantly related to summer teachers that are accrued back to the previous year. Unavailable tax revenues offset the property tax net revenues of 1.5, leaving total fund balance of $17 million. As you'll see, $150,000 has been committed. $346 is considered non-spendable related to prepaid items, leaving $16.6 million in unassigned fund balance for the general fund. I'm going to move to page 29 and talk about revenues and expenditures. Of total local revenues of $46 million, total taxes were $44 million. State funding was approximately $42.8 million for total revenues of just under $90 million. Instruction services approximated $47.5 million, with support services under $40 million, with intergovernmental funding of $2.3 million. As you'll see, there's transfers from other funds. Those are due to flexibility and indirect costs of approximately 3.5, adding to fund balance for the current year of $4.1 million, raising your fund balance, as stated previously, from $12.9 to $17 million. There's a lot of focus on the fund balance, especially as it pertains to the expenditures. If you'll recall, for fiscal practices that came into law a couple years back, the state requires there to be 1 month of general fund expenditures to be held in unassigned fund balance. That approximates 8.3%. Pleased to report that y'all sit at approximately 18.6%, which equates to about 2.2 months of expenditures held in unassigned fund balance. I know that's a lot of numbers that I went through fairly quickly, but are there any questions related to the financials and the financial numbers of the district? If none, I'd like to thank the finance team and the whole district administrative staff for their help in this audit. This was an unusual year, not only due to timing changes and closures related to COVID, but in addition, the finance department did adopt a new accounting software that they were getting used to, we were getting used to, everybody's getting used to. I think that goes district-wide, but we appreciate their staff and their hard work to get us the information that we needed to be able to conduct our audit timely and get it issued on time to the State Department.
May I ask you a general question?
Absolutely. You may ask.
The state retirement system.
Yes.
Okay, now again, this is a general question, so if you want to decline, you don't have to answer.
But I know where you're going. I get it at every board meeting.
Okay, millions of dollars in debt. What's the latest that you could share with us?
So the latest is that it is a defined benefit plan, so that the funding for those that are involved changes based off of an actuarial's report. So there are assumptions that go into that. There could be not a single contribution into the plan. The plan could be considered frozen. But if there's an actuarial assumption change, let's say someone's retirement age or a health performance indicator or anything of that nature, you could have massive fluctuations in these liabilities. Doesn't change the fact that anything went into it or didn't go into it. It is just based off of those assumptions. At a certain point in time, as more individuals near retirement, there's going to have to be a plan in place to pay these defined benefits. What that plan is conducted at the state level. They put out each year employee contribution rates as well as forced employer contribution rates. We've seen those employer rates increase over time. That is in a goal and in effect to try to help with that liability. There's investment performance that plays into it. There's multiple factors. I don't know what the answer is. It's been talked for years that they will freeze the plan to new entrants. There's been talks of changing the budget allotment that the state will pay in instead of the individual districts. There's been a lot of different discussions over the years. There's probably hundreds of articles and opinions that you could read on it. Unfortunately, I think the best answer is no one really knows right now. This is when the Government Accounting Standards Board put these into place in 2016 and 18, this was a long project that started back in the early 2000s, if not prior, to have these represented on financial statements, because I think it was long forgotten because they were never presented. It wasn't in people's direct line of sight that these are the liabilities that are present. And I think with them now in their third or fourth year of being presented, people are starting to ask that very question, and what are we going to do about this, and starting to put plans into place to address that liability. I can't tell you what it would be at this point. That is far above my knowledge and probably most people in the States.
But in short, still in the red section, isn't it?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not just South Carolina. You look at this, the pension OPEB liabilities for governmental entities across the country, and there are, I think I read a statistic when they first implemented these in 2000. So pensions came in 2016, OPEBs came in 2018 in terms of reporting them. And I want to say I read some statistic in 2016 where there was like 8% of governments actually had a funded pension liability. And that could be, you know, your small 2,000 population town could be considered a government that has a funded liability. Outside of that, it's not. The state puts out the report each year. It's on PIBA's website that literally breaks down every single employer in the state, and it has your little employer code and dictates all of the liabilities, and it's crazy to see. And here's y'all's presented. You know, I said $130 million for pension, likewise for OPEB. So it's a great question, but that's questions for the State House.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions, but I do have a comment.
Yes.
The first 9, 10, and 11 pages just present such a great summary of all sorts of things that, you know, you don't necessarily think you would have in a financial report. And so I always enjoy, you know, that summary of, you know, statistics and
Absolutely.
demographics and all of those things, and it's just good information.
Absolutely. As Chairman Lance pointed out, this was a presentation of certification of excellence, and I will say that certification of excellence is an application process that the district goes through to actually submit this financial reporting packet to an oversight body who judges it, rates how good the report is, and provides that certificate of excellence. And one of the requirements of that program, as well as what is considered this consolidated annual financial report as a whole packet, includes this transmittal letter, and that is the first set of pages. As I mentioned before, on page 16 through, I want to say it's 23 or 24, that is a very similar summary in the way that it's written. However, it is strictly about the financial performance of the district. So you combine both of those, and it really is a great depiction of the district. And I would like to point out that in those first few pages, you will see that based off of the 2020 audit report, that the district did receive their certificate of financial excellence for the 2020 report. There's nothing in this report that I would foresee precluding the district from receiving the same for this 21 report as well. So congratulations to the staff. I know it's been many years that, consecutive years that they have received this certificate of excellence. So I congratulate them as well. If there's no other questions, I know there's a break to the next line item of the agenda to prevent Lisa from having to stand back up and reintroduce me. I'll just jump right to that report. It is the next item on the agenda, though. Another partner at our firm, Leslie Kelly, the other partner with Darver Kelly, handles a separate examination, or agreed upon procedure engagement regarding the district's procurement policies and the district's procurement code. This is a required process that is dictated by the South Carolina Department of Education and the procurement department at the state level. They have a detailed audit program that we are required to follow that enumerates individual steps and individual processes that we have to perform and test to make sure that the district is in compliance with the district's procurement code. I will not bore you with 2 or 3 pages of what those detailed levels of procedures are, but I will say they go through everything from reviewing sole source, emergency, general procurement, construction, A&E, credit card transactions, all for compliance with the district's procurement code. As you'll see throughout this 3 or 4 page report, there were no exceptions noted in that procurement report, and we are pleased to report we don't provide an opinion, as an opinion is not provided. It is specific procedures as outlined by the state's procurement department, and that is to determine the compliance with your own procurement code. And I believe you all have a copy of that report as well. Any questions related to the district's procurement, AUP, or procurement engagement? Without none, I'd like to thank y'all for having me tonight. I'd like to thank the finance team again, business offices. We really appreciate working with the district and everything that they've done to provide us the information to do both of these engagements. So thank you very much.
Ms. Smith, update on virtual program.
I might need some assistance. Here it is. There you go. Thank you. All right. So good evening, Chairman Lance, Superintendent Price, board members, cabinet members, and guests. I am very pleased to be here this evening to share our virtual program update. As you well know, that we currently serve students in grades K through 6. If you remember, and thank you, board, for your support, you approved for us to actually implement our virtual program during the first 9 weeks. Once we noticed that the COVID numbers were on the rise, and also at that time, our students that were under the age of 12 were not eligible for the vaccination. So, I'm just going to give you a quick, journey through how this all turned out. So once you approved the process in September, we actually sent out our applications, and we had an overwhelming amount of submissions. It was over 600. But after filtering through the applications, and we noticed that there were lots of duplicates, also we hosted a town hall meeting to explain the expectations of the program. And as a result of that, the numbers dwindled quickly. And our beginning program, which started on October 4th, we began with an enrollment of 114 students. Now, as of today, we have 73 students. We actually received one more last week. And so with that being said, we actually started out, if you remember, saying that we will have 14 teachers, but we actually only needed 7 teachers to serve 1 teacher per grade level, okay? So as we look at the reason why our enrollment decreased from 114 to 72, well now it's 73. Our parents at our virtual town hall meeting were asked to sign a virtual agreement. And in that agreement, we specified the importance of satisfactory academics, behavior, and also attendance. And as we looked at our students' attendance, behavior, and also their academics, at the end of the first 9 weeks, we lost lots of kids. And not just because of their academics from the district's standards, but also our parents agreed that, you know, this is probably not for my child. In addition to that, we had some parents who had changes in their job statuses where their shifts changed, or the caretaker was no longer able to take care of their child, to oversee their child during the daytime. And lastly, we had a few students, I think it's about 4 students, that actually transferred to other districts.
Now, this is the thing that I'm very proud about. I know last year there were lots of concerns about our academic performance. And with 73 kids, we are now able to really closely monitor what's going on in our classrooms. As you can see, 100% of our students in grades K through 6 are excelling in ELA. As you note, on the bars, you have the actual number of students, and this is their final one. This is their final F1 grade. This is not Q1 or Q2. This is their final grade. As we look at math, again, another celebration here. Absolutely no one is failing. And I pulled this report, now this was pulled on February 4th, but this is definitely something to celebrate. And as you can see on each bar, it dictates the number of students that are passing or with A's, B's, and so on, and that's their final grade. Excuse me. As we look at social studies and science, we do have some concerns there. And those students that are currently, as you can see, there's one student in our science that is experiencing some challenges, and also 2 students in social studies. And those students are in grades 5 and 6, and we're working with them diligently to make sure that they're getting the support that they need. Now, what are we doing to support our students? First of all, I must give a big shout out to Ms. Stuckey and the interventionists, and thank you, board, for actually approving for us to have interventions at each of our schools. They have been instrumental into making sure that those grades you just saw a few minutes ago is an impact of their collaboration with our virtual teachers. In addition to our interventionists, we are now starting after-school tutoring for our students to make sure, especially those students that need just a little push. They have lots of potential, they're very excited, they're engaged, but they need a little bit more push with the support of our parents to make sure that they're successful. We're also hosting our monthly town hall meetings where we share reading strategies and math strategies with our parents, and they found that to be very, very helpful. We send home monthly newsletters with strategies and videos, and also our teachers, because of our application process, it is required that teachers make bi-monthly contact. So there's lots of phone calls going on that are taking place, and we're making sure that the teachers are being accountable by submitting that to me on a monthly basis. As you well know, Mr. Amante talked about SE Engage a few meetings ago. We're partnering with them. We actually have a few of our students that are being coached by some of the SE Engage volunteers, so that has been going very well. And lastly, you heard about this a few meetings ago, tutor.com. Some of our parents have actually decided to sign up for this, and this is a 24-hour assistance where someone who may have a struggle with maybe math or social studies, they can actually have that interaction with someone who's an expert in that content. Okay, so I've just provided you with a very brief overview. Are there any questions at this time? Okay, if there are no questions, thank you again for your support. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
While she's moving, this is the period where we have board superintendent comments or requests.
Before Mr. Price, Mr. Price, with all due respect, and I don't know how my colleagues feel about this, I don't like turning my back to the audience, okay? It's not a matter of trust or anything. I just like to face people. To me, it's kind of rude when you have your back toward an audience, so.
I didn't mean to shine it on them.
No, I completely understand. And just for clarity, when we had our retreat and our work session and we had our setup like this, when we were going to our 2 different versions of board meetings, there was a request to arrange the seating this way by the participants in that session. But collectively, if the board wants to abandon this seating and go back to where we were for our work sessions, we can certainly entertain that as well. Just trying to be responsive to the request of the board.
I'll just bend the banana in the middle and let it turn that way, turn the middle here and we face that way. But anyway, I have a question for you, Mr. Price. In the future, could I see some expulsion data on what we have in the district-wide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. After this past week.
Anybody else?
Dr. Lance, I would like to say a special thank you to the All-County Band last week. They did an outstanding job, and it was really exciting to see our students back together again. And I'd also like to commend the Waccamaw Middle School group that did the drama. It was really very exciting and so good to see our students back in performing arts again. So as we look forward to Summer Beach and some of those things that we've previously had, this was just a prelude, and it certainly was an exciting time.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'd first like to start by thanking Ms. Johnson and her team for such a clean financial audit with the millions of dollars that flow through that office, and this year with the additional over $30 million of federal ESSER money that's coming for COVID relief, and tackling a new software system update and still having a clean audit on top of that. My hat certainly is tipped to Ms. Johnson and her team for their continued string of excellence. So thank you to Ms. Johnson and team. Last week, we began implementation of our Test to Stay program for our students. That, along with the decrease in our number of positives, which today was only at 33, has lowered our number of quarantines significantly. We have tried to be responsive to shifting updates to DHEC guidance as we receive it. I want to once again thank our nurses for their commitment to responding to these changes, which oftentimes means relearning new procedures and documentation efforts. It's because of their adaptability that more students are able to avoid quarantining safely and are able to stay in school. Over the weekend, DHEC updated their guidance again. One of the more significant updates is that the Test to Stay option, which was originally for students only, has now been expanded to include employees. This will certainly help with our staffing challenges and substitute shortages that we've struggled with this year whenever we've experienced surges. At this time, I'd also like to commend Dr. Milton and her team, as they have processed all employee positives and close contacts and made all of that communication to all employees throughout the county. They are a big reason why we have been able to navigate through these surges the past couple of years. I'm happy to share that GCSD will be a recipient of a Rural Access Grant offered by NIMSI, the National Math and Science Institute. This grant will allow us to expand the number of advanced placement opportunities at 2 of our schools who qualify for the grant, Andrews High and Carvers Bay High. In addition, teachers at these schools interested in adding an AP endorsement to their teaching certificate in one of the 8 different areas will have the opportunity to do so. In our drive to increase the number and percentage of students who graduate from high school, college, and career ready, this grant aligns perfectly. Mrs. Mahone and Mr. Odom have already begun planning these offerings for the 22-23 school year. GCSD has officially launched our mobile app called Georgetown County SD. With push notifications, calendar events, lunch menus, and news, our mobile app is designed to keep you connected and informed. I encourage you to visit the App Store or Google Play to download the Georgetown County SD app. Congratulations to the Carvers Bay Middle girls basketball team and the Waccamaw Middle boys basketball team for winning the middle school region championships last week. Congratulations also to all of the students and teachers and other volunteers who made last week's all-county band concert a huge success, and I want to wish everyone involved in the all-county chorus concert best wishes for their upcoming performance on Friday. And finally, this is a reminder that the Georgetown Academic Bowls are scheduled for next week in the Georgetown High Auditorium. The Senior Bowl will be held on Tuesday, and the Juniors will be on Thursday. Good luck to all of our GCSD scholars. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Price. Next order of business here, we do have an executive session scheduled to get some updates from Ms. Thompson regarding board vacancies and legal cases. Do I have a motion to proceed?
So moved.
It's been moved and probably second that we now enter executive session without objection.
Right.
Let's go.